Hello, welcome back to another video for Final Fantasy XIV with me, Meoni. In patch 7.3, a lot of things changed and got updated. First then, to emotes, we got a few changes. There are several emotes that were just not able to be used while sat down. There are still some that are not. You can't use them in a seated position on the floor. That seems to have changed. As you can see, there's a list here, and there's also some changes to ones that have also been updated. So let's have a look through these just to give you a bit of a catalogue of what emotes were affected, where those emotes originally came from, and of course what they look like with the bottom half of your character not being used, obviously, which is the biggest concern with this. They're only like waist up emotes, so anything that would affect the emote normally on the upper side of your character is represented, but anything below the waist is unfortunately not shown on this because, well, you're not going to be kicking around your feet on the floor. But there's a good range of things now, so we can sit on the floor. Like you can see here, I'm at the Moonfire Fair area eating rice balls and things like that. It's taken a while for things like this to eventually get added and changed. There was no real reason for us not to be able to use these whilst seated on the floor. Obviously, there are some emotes that are from the cash shop that seem to have taken priority over a lot of the other emotes. There does seem to be a good proportion of these that seem to be from the Final Fantasy XIV online store, but a lot of them are also originally like event rewards as well. One I can't show you is the Eat Chicken emote because the European region just has never had that. For some reason, that's United States and Japan only. No idea why, but apparently that can also be used whilst seated. Some of the best bits are like read, for example. This isn't the looped one, this is just the general tab one. And the ability to sit down on the floor, maybe the campfire minion next to you and read a story to your friends. That's kind of cute. I like that. Then we've got stuff like the photograph emote, which is from the Instax Fujifilm collab, if you remember that. That has also been made so you can use it on the floor. So if you want to take some floor pictures, you totally can do. And then we got generic stuff in the game like hug that will now work on floors. So if you want to be next to somebody and hug them, you can. The wow emote works. Clutch head, which, if you're tired of someone's story, you could react that way. It's just a nice thing, isn't it, to see updated. And it is interesting to see how these all basically work while seated on the floor. Very similar to how they work when you're seated on a chair or something like that. The added benefit, of course, is that you've got different change poses for how you sit on the floor as well, depending on your character's race. But in general, having more places that you can actually use emotes is always better. I hope that they actually add more locations for all of the emotes. You can see usually when you go on the emote guide itself, it'll tell you where you can and cannot use it. It would be cool to see an expansion to that. Some emotes don't really make sense why they can't be used in other places, and some are more like more of a way of preventing you from just using them anywhere. Like, for example, the Dozy Mode. A lot of people would really like to have that usable outside of beds and deck chairs and things like that, being able to lie on the beach, for example. So that's the sort of thing I hope to see change in the future, because there's not really that much of a reason to prevent that, in my opinion. There's always going to be lots of people talking about a certain side of the community that would misuse that, but do they not already misuse that anyway? Without that, they might as well just make it so that we can have more G-pose options in dungeons, in open world areas, places like that. In my opinion, at least. I don't know. At this point, nothing is sacred, so you might as well just give us everything that we want. Anyway, these are the three that got changed: Think, Converse, and Insist, which were already available to be used on the floor. There was a few issues, I think, with the way that the waist was twisting before, depending on which way you looked, if I remember correctly, so they have fixed that. But that's the only real changes to those. But those are all of the emotes in 7.3 that have been adjusted. There are plenty of emotes, like I say, that would be cool if we could sit on the ground and use them. Thankfully, they seem to be adding a lot of emotes to the game that can be used while seated, but there are still many that are being added that cannot. So hopefully the future of emotes is a nice, long, and prosperous one where we can get more use out of them, because G-pose, glamour, and emotes are definitely part of the end game for a lot of collectors. Anyway, let me know what you think about these changes in 7.3, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.